Hi you all, welcome to this deep dive special Super Bowl edition featuring Bad Bunny. And if you haven't seen my video where I'm dancing to the Super Bowl performance, check it out in the link below. So I am Dr. Jeneve Brooks. I'm a sociologist and protest music scholar, and I focus on high energy protest music that we can all dance to, that can move our bodies, hearts, and minds towards individual and collective evolution. I feel like I want to focus on protest music that we can dance to because I feel like with the state of the world right now, we all need to release this energy. So anyway, this episode is going to be a little bit different because in previous episodes, I usually focus on one protest song and the artist and the band. But this Super Bowl with Bad Bunny was of such historical importance that I decided to do a special edition on it. But first, a joke that a friend sent me right after the Bad Bunny performance. They said, Bad Bunny did something that Trump could never do, name all the countries in the Americas. And actually, I would say probably a lot of North Americans cannot do that. We're not always the best with our geography, including myself. But anyway, regarding the intersection of politics and music, many commentators have talked about how the Super Bowl's lineup was definitely a show of large cultural resistance to Trump and the MAGA movement. It started off with Coco Jones singing the African-American national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Then that was followed by some selections from Green Day, the punk band that is admittedly anti-Trump, and Belinda Carlisle, who is a famous singer, and she's also proudly lesbian. And then that was followed by Bad Bunny's set, and he would present the first full Spanish language set of the Super Bowl. So this was a huge cultural and political moment, and I just want to say, and I think a lot of us want to say thank you, Bad Bunny, in particular, because instead of focusing on a politics of division and hate, he focused overwhelmingly on a message of love and unity. And I also just wanted to say, from start to finish, it was a loving tribute to Puerto Rican culture and also a shout out to Hispanic culture in general. The sense of community, the sensuality, the infectiousness of the music. So we started off though with his 13-minute set where you see workers hacking in sugarcane fields wearing the pavas, the straw hats. And that represents the farmers who work the land and use the imagery with its not so subtle critique of colonialism and capitalism. And then we were taken through various vignettes of Puerto Rican culture, and it was very cool the way the camera angles just followed Bad Bunny on this intimate journey that you were taking with him. So it was like a kaleidoscope of vignettes and street scenes. So you went from like men playing dominoes on the street corner to women getting their nails done to real life boxers in the street, then the Perico's cart, the snow cone cart, an LA taco stand that is actually a real restaurant, I guess. And then it was to bodegas, to an actual couple getting married during this set, and then to Lady Gaga, who was performing with a salsa band. You also had Bad Bunny giving his recent Grammy to a young boy. And then the casita, which represents the Puerto Rican house where everyone goes to party, and that was featuring stars like Carla B, Jessica Alba, Karol G, and others. And there was a really cool trust fall where I believe he was standing on the ceiling of the casita and he just was like going back like this, and all these dancers raised up their hands to catch him. And it was just very cool. There was also a cameo of Ricky Martin singing Bad Bunny's Lo Que Lo Pasó a Hawaii, which speaks out against gentrification. And then there was the critique referring to Puerto Rico's fragile power grid when Bad Bunny was climbing power poles and with dancers, and they were swinging from the power poles. And that harkens back to a critique of, the United States government canceling millions in aid to help with restoring the power grid, but that the power grid has been an ongoing issue with subsequent hurricanes. And then, it went from one thing to the other. Also, I just wanted to say about that power grid section, that was accompanied with the song El Apagón, which means blackout. And I do link below to that song, basically a lyrics video song in Spanish, but there's also an English translation for those who are interested. But again, overall, the message was love and unity all throughout the performance. There was stellar choreography, just tons of dancers, gorgeous young Latinos. It just felt like a huge block party that you were invited to. Celebrating, again, the community, the sensuality, the infectious beats of Puerto Rican music, of Hispanic music in general, and it just made you feel good. And then Bad Bunny closed the show holding a football that said, "Together we are America," and in English said, "God bless America," while quickly, like I said, naming all the countries in the Americas. And then it all ended up with a huge quote blasted on the screen that said, "Love, the only thing more powerful than hate is love." And that was going along with his speech from the Grammys when he was focusing on love, and when his album Debí Tirar Más Fotos became the first all-Spanish language album to win Album of the Year. Now I wanted to address kind of the selection of Bad Bunny, and it is worth noting that Bad Bunny, whose real name is Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, has 6 studio albums to his name, and he has recently won the most streamed global artist now for 4 years, and that has beat out any artist, including Taylor Swift. And he also has 189 songs that have been on the Hot Latin Songs chart, and he also has been on the Billboard Hot 100 113 times, and 41 of those songs have actually reached the top 40, and 12 have reached the top 10, and he also had a #1 hit with I Like It with Cardi B and J Balvin. So even though MAGA, the MAGA movement and Trump have tried to portray this as his selection was a deep betrayal to American values, the NFL is quite powerful as an institution, and they were wanting to increase their market share in Spanish-speaking countries, and they want to make more money. So the good old American value of capitalism actually came down to it, and the Nielsen media reports was that 128.2 million tuned into the Super Bowl and watched Bad Bunny. It was one of the largest audiences in Super Bowl history, whereas 6.2 million were reported tuning into the alternative halftime show on YouTube that Turning Point USA put on featuring Kid Rock. And a funny thing about that, the alternative show for MAGA is that they were saying it was promoting traditional American values, but a lot of scrutiny was coming about because of Kid Rock's lyrics, like with his song Low Life, which glorifies sex with minors. And then also a quote that Kid Rock had about the Olsen twins when they were 14, and he was saying, you know, if there's grass on the field, play ball. That was circulating, so it hasn't been a great look. Anyway, lastly, I just want to say that as a sociologist and protest music scholar, thinking about the historical importance of this Super Bowl and its meaning and Bad Bunny's performance, it was historical, obviously, like I said before, that it was the first full Spanish language set in Super Bowl history. It was also historic in the sense that it was so magnificently staged. Some people have said it's the best performance ever. Like I said, there was a dizzying array of vignettes and how you went from one to the other. It was like you were transported. And then going back to the concept of framing and how you can frame a narrative, and I mentioned this in last week's video for Bruce Springsteen's Streets of Minneapolis, how frames give a slice of what you want to stick in people's minds, what you want to stick or in people's consciousness. And again, this is building on the work of Irving Goffman and Bimford and Snow in terms of social movements framing. And with this halftime show, I think the overarching frame is this focus of love and unity. It was a frame that appealed to universal values. It was inviting everyone to join this huge block party. This, even MAGA folks, everyone was invited to experience the joy, to dance along, to celebrate diversity, but also at the end of the day, our unity and our love. And with that, I'll close out. So may we raise our vibration of love, joy, and unity on this planet. Here's to the highest individual and collective good for all. The revolution will be danced to. I'll see you next time.